Hey YouTube, so I'm back for part 2 of the video about, my first week home. Where we left off, I was meeting up with my mom to take the train, or we were going to meet halfway on the train. I was heading from school, she was coming from work, or I was coming from school, she was coming from work, and I was finally going to see this walk that I'd never gotten to take yet. So on Tuesday, I told you guys, we left together and we took this really long route for me to get to the dorm, and she wanted me to take that same route home. Is it route or route? Huh. Okay, anyway. And then the next day, I went to work with my sister because, it was such an ordeal getting me to the train. The commute should not be that hard, but she was making it so much harder than it needs to be. But yes, I went to work with my sister, and on her break, we headed to the train. And yeah, so now I'm finally heading home. I met my mom, and as we're on the train, she tells me that at our stop, the doors open on the same side they did at our old stop, and a few other random tidbits. And I found it interesting after she'd said my sister wasn't qualified. And I already knew about the train doors because it's one of the local stops after a certain stop, after the last stop on the other train. So I knew where the doors opened, but I didn't say anything because I felt like that would be stupid, like a stupid thing to argue about or start an argument over. And I just listened with a smile. But then I'm always smiling, so you know. And I also had my earpiece in, but she didn't seem to realize that. So we get to the stop, and we get off of the train, and we have to be in the middle of the train, and she just has this thing. She always pulls me to the side very aggressively, and she's like, "Oh, let's let the people rush past us," and she usually has some unkind term to describe the people. And so the moment you've all been waiting for, we're going down the stairs, and we turn, and she's like, "So you have to make a sharp right here, and you turn here, yada yada yada." And it's interesting that she's telling me all of this because she has no intention of letting me do the walk myself. So we get off of the train and walk home. And guys, it's a straight line. The walk from the train station to my house, it's a straight freaking line. 4 blocks and 3 street crossings. We get home, and she starts griping at me about everything. She was commenting on how quickly the lights change at each street, and I'm like, well, it's a smaller street, so that's probably why. And she's like, I know that. And so I've told you guys my first name is LaShawn, and she was LaShawning me a couple of times. I hate the way it's said, all Americanized. LaShawn. It's so much prettier. LaShawn. Anyway, but she's she just keeps LaShawning me a whole bunch of times throughout the night, and I'm just what's your problem? I haven't done anything. I'm even endeavoring to be chipper. My mood shifts so quickly when I'm talking to her. I'll be talking to my friends, or I'll be hanging out with my friends, and she'll call me, and people can just tell by the shift in my tone and even my face, that I'm just who it is, and that I'm not excited to be with having that phone call. So, but she'd been in the mood all week. And, after that, she was being, extra affectionate is too strong a word, but, she was doing what she always does when she's annoyed with someone, make a big show of, speaking pleasantly and making light conversation with the other person. So basically, my sister, if she's mad at one, she'll be overly pleasant to the other. And sister and I usually don't really care. But that's how that day ended. I went to sleep, and so Thursday, my sister and I hadn't discussed me heading to work with her again. But I woke up pretty much as early as last time because I knew my mother was leaving around 7, and I wouldn't put it past her to just leave while I'm sleeping. No, I'm not exaggerating. I've got stories, but I won't get into them because that'll be a complete digression. But she'd do some schmidt like that. So my sister had like stuck her head in my room just to see if I was awake, and she'd, she's like, I made you a sandwich, yada yada yada. And cause she's such a kind soul. So I get up and I'm so tired, but I'm like being extra chipper that morning. And I walk into my mom's room and I try to like make conversation, and she just gives me like monosyllabic responses. So I'm just like, all right, whatever, fine. And I go back to my room, I get dressed, brush my teeth, and all that stuff like that. And after my mom goes downstairs, and after I think she sees like the sandwich I said my sister made, or my sister told me that she made, I feel like her attitude just worsened. And like all week she was kind of gloating about how my sister had brought her a gift from Cape Cod and she didn't get me anything. I don't know, it's kind of like an obligatory gift. Like we get each other things all the time, and my sister does so much for me. I don't expect her to bring me back anything, unless she's going away. But she's been going to Cape Cod for a couple of years now. It's a tradition with her college, college roommates. Okay, totally irrelevant. Sorry. But anyway, so she's got an attitude, and I don't ask her anything. I rarely ask her anything anymore unless it's like important. But anyway, so she tells me that she's leaving in 20 minutes, and so, I get my sweater and stuff, and I head downstairs. So as I'm putting my sneakers on, just hanging out on the floor, she's sitting on a chair doing the same thing, I think. And she's like, so you're not going to get someone to help you? And, very, very calmly, and because you guys can tell from my voice, like I usually, I'm like, even when I'm emphatic, like I don't even sound crazily emphatic, did that make sense? I think that made sense. I make sure my smile is extra wide, and I'm like, well, the walk was fairly easy. And I've had to, and she's like, what are you talking about? Like, this is dangerous. And she's not yelling per se, but like just, like the attitude and the bad vibes, for lack of a better term, is just like dripping from her tone. And I was like, well, I've had to navigate like tons of situations by myself in school. Like I found out that I had to go somewhere that night, and the next day, if I got in contact with my sister, it's great because she's pretty good, she's pretty observant, and she'd like give me really good directions. But if not, like I'll figure it out the best I can with my GPS, my phone GPS, and maps and stuff, and then I'll just ask people along the way. She's like, this neighborhood's dangerous, I don't know the people, and I'm always in a hurry to do things. And she predicts or guarantees, I don't remember exactly what she said, but she predicts that I'm not going to live to see my 20th birthday, which is 3 months away, guys. My birthday's September 28th. Hey, you guys should like write that down. I love birthday wishes. But she's saying all of this, and she's like, it's not like how it was at our old stop, where she had friends who knew her and knew me, and like like, oh, you're Debbie's daughter, and that was like the thing where in our old neighborhood, or even a little ways away from it actually. We were just like Debbie's daughters. But they'd always come up to me and they're like, oh, I know your mom. And they'll like grab my arm to assist me down the stairs. I've told you about people just grabbing me and like forcing their assistance on me. And I honestly, like, I get it. I do. It's coming from a good place. But first of all, like, when is it, like, I don't like being grabbed. It's not cool. And, like, I don't start yelling at people. I'm always really, really calm. And I'm just like, I'm fine, thanks. And they're like, oh, I know your mom. It's okay. And I'm like, it's all right, thank you. Or I'll be waiting on the at the subway for her, and they'll be like, oh, you want me to walk you like part way? And I'm like, no, it's all right. I'm waiting for her to come. And she'd be like, oh, why do you have to be like that? Like, they're my friends. They're just trying to help you. And now just with anybody, when I tell her about people offering me, she's like, oh, they're just trying to help you. And I get that, but when I need the help. And now she's like, oh, you just can't be taking help from just anybody, and yada yada. And it's just interesting how her tune has changed. But anyway, she's like, I need someone to show me how to open the door. And I'm like, I can put a key in a lock, and it's a basic skill. If there's something specific about our door, you can show me. Um, and she just totally ignores that, and she doesn't even like respond to me. So I'm just like, okay, I guess we're done. But I also forgot to say in the moment that it's not a mobility teacher's job. I might fall under the people whom you can request to teach you, life skills. They're actually called like RTs or something like that, which stands for rehabilitation trainers or rehabilitation instructors, rehabilitation specialists, something like that. But people don't like to use the term rehabilitation because, it's the implication that you're teaching someone or a skill that they already had or reteaching it, and it's not accurate. Instead, they're showing the blind and visually impaired people life skills like cooking and stuff like that. So it might fall under that, but it's putting a key in a door. It's pretty basic. But anyway, so we're heading out, and then she starts yelling at me for having a scarf and sweater on. It's it's an infinity scarf, so I had it kind of like hanging from my neck. Now, I'm usually cold. I'm anemic. And I knew I wanted the sweater from the breeze that was coming in through my window, but I was unsure about the scarf. And so, if I felt too warm, I'd put it in my book bag. But she yells at me, telling me to do something with it, so I wrap it around my neck. And as we're heading out, like walking down the stairs, she's grumbling about me having that thing dangling from my neck. But it's not dangling anymore. I wrapped it. And her whole mood shifts though when we run into some of her friends, and then she goes back to being a grouch. That's not the word I was going to use when we're on the train. And I get to my stop, so we left, I want to say at like 7:20, 7:30. I get to my stop at 8:20. I don't have to be at work until 10. So I hang out in Dunkin' Donuts, and I feel like I felt like I was going to be kicked out at any minute. Like, I did buy something because that's what TV says you're supposed to do, but I've never just like sat in an establishment like without other people, and it felt really awkward to me, and I just thought that someone would just walk up to me soon, just touch my shoulder and be like, hey miss, you've been sitting here for a while now. It's over an hour. So I called like one of my friends and was talking to her and just telling her about all the things that were happening this week. And please keep in mind, guys, that this is just the overview, and it's taking like 2 videos, and this is just the overview. But reflecting on the walk, after I hung up with my friend, heading home was a piece of cake. But having that day done the reverse of the walk, again, it's easy because 3 blocks straight freaking line. But getting to the uptown side, I was a little unsure of. And she claims that I don't want people to help me. I'm cool. I can admit when I have trouble. I'm not sure how to get to the uptown train side, or I wasn't until today. Or it's Tuesday now, so yesterday. But I can remedy that by asking questions until I have it memorized when I get to the station. But I meet up with her again that evening. And we're on the train going back, and she's like, oh, do you want to go to the woman tomorrow? She means Juanita, the hairdresser, if you remember from the previous video. I had wanted her to make an appointment, and she just completely threw that out of the window. On Monday morning when she woke me up and was yelling and told me that she doesn't do she does too much for other people, and she needs some time for herself. So, I'm like, well, I have to work tomorrow. And then she gets mad at me. She's like, what do you need to work for? It's not like you need the money. And it's just, I'm like, well, she doesn't know what I need. Like, I've been paying for my own things since high school when she told me to start paying for my own things. It was very oxymoronic. I have more words to say about that, but it'll be a total, complete digression. So I'm just gonna not. I'm just gonna not. But anyway, so Friday, we do it all over again. But this time, I stayed in Starbucks, where real writers go. Just kidding. A little bit. The poor writers hang out in Dunkin' Donuts. I like the atmosphere of Starbucks a lot better. I didn't feel like I was going to be kicked out at any minute. I also came to the realization that, that day I was being pretty, like my week was really unhealthy. Like each night I only slept about at most 4.5 hours, because I went to bed, I want to say like 2, 3 a.m., but I was getting up at like 6, 7. And I think part of the reason that it was easy for me to go to bed at like 2, 3 a.m. and harder for me to go to sleep earlier is that, like I didn't have to be up at 6, 7. So I could have gotten like maybe 6 hours of sleep, maybe 7, if I were able to wake up at 9, 10, when I should be getting up, or not should be getting up, but when, I didn't have to get up um, until around 9. Sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought. But, I was getting up at like 5:45 and 6 and 6:30 to do just a bunch of extraness. So I was just like eating a lot more, and it was probably because of my lack of sleep. And then, I guess I was kind of stressed out. I didn't really realize it. I mean, like obviously, I don't know. I didn't feel stressed, but I was like eating. Like I said, I was eating a lot more, and I'm anemic, as I mentioned before, so I wasn't taking my iron. And, I just like wake up cold. I have no idea, like prior to when I started taking it again on Friday rather, like when was the last time I'd taken it. But it was just really, it was bad. And I was like dizzy for a lot of the morning. And, I woke up like really cold, like to the point my teeth were almost chattering. And that's when I was like, all right, you need to get your ish together. And when I got to Starbucks, I bought something to eat, took my iron, and, everything was better. But yeah, so I still didn't quite, like on Friday morning after we did the walk again, I still didn't quite have the uptown side down. And that afternoon, we went home together again. And she was in a mood because she wanted me to go to Juanita, like I said. But, on her time. And I've got so many completely unrelated stories. Maybe I'll do a vlog just about my mom. The one about my mom. Actually, I don't think I'm ready for that yet. Alright. Maybe in a year. But anyway, so then this weekend we had our housewarming, and her attitude just totally, like, she was better when her friends was around, and some of her friends were around, rather, and some of our family from, like, Philly was here, and, that was cool, it was awesome. And, my sister and I planned to finally make the walk on Sunday, just to make sure that I've got it down, because I was pretty sure I had a pretty good idea, but, it doesn't hurt to have, like, do it again and have extra assistance, whatever. Extra practice, there we go. But it started raining. Like, there was a weather advisory, and it was like there was supposed to be hail, and it was crazy. And my mom was absolutely delighted. Like, she didn't say it, but I could tell by her mood shift. So Sunday night, I was arguing with myself, trying to figure out what would be the lesser of two evils: continuing to do the work thing, like to do the work every morning, of like getting up super early and, hanging out in coffee shops for over an hour, or brave her mood and tell her, that I'm going to do the walk on my own. And she went to sleep Sunday night, so I didn't get to talk to her about it. And then on Monday, we left, significantly later. We left a lot closer to 9, so there was no coffee shop hanging out for me. That was really nice. And, the additional sleep. I did not turn on my alarm because, I trusted her. Like, once we'd gotten an established 2 days, I trusted her to let me know, to wake me up, angrily or not. And, it was pretty pleasant today. And, she was just, like, in a totally good mood. And I really didn't want to spoil that after a week of just her being a grouch. And I also finally figured out the uptown side today after we did it for the 3rd time. So I was going to talk to her then once I got home, but I didn't want the rest of my evening to be a real life hell. So I'm finally going to suck it up, grow a pair, and talk to her tomorrow, or I guess it'd be later depending on when I upload this video, but on Tuesday. Talk to her on Tuesday. Talk to her Tuesday morning when we're heading to the train. And especially since, when we were walking home, she was like planning things around picking me up on the train, and I know in a few weeks, if this continues, she's going to be complaining about how she never gets a break and do I really have to work? But I'm doing job placement, so I can't, like, I'm not just going to, like, unless I have some serious issue or whatever, just not work because I'm finding people jobs. But like I'm not in high school, and we no longer live in the old building where we had to cross an 8-lane highway. Like it's a straight line. I've said this so many times, but I try to understand a lot, and a lot of times I do, but I don't know. I just feel like this is a bit crazy, particularly just hanging out and sitting in Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts for an hour and a half. But yeah, so that's been my week home. Please feel free to comment on it and give me your thoughts. If you think it's crazy, if you think my mom is totally like justified in being worried, which no, she's definitely justified in being worried and stuff, but I don't know. Just give me your thoughts. Do you guys have interesting relationships with your moms? I'd love to hear that as well. And you know, yeah. Okay. Till next time.